It's back to school season, and that comes with a lot of change. And sometimes more meltdowns, no's, and moments when your child suddenly seems unable to do something they've been doing and you know they can do, but it seems like they are refusing to do it. But what if the problem isn't actually refusal? In this episode, we'll explore why transitions can be so challenging for our kids and how all that change can make it harder for them to listen, understand, and respond. And then you will learn 3 simple ways to make those transitions and changes easier and to reduce the frustration and help your child understand what's coming next. So happy back to school season. I hope this episode helps you find even more joy in it. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Before we get into today's episode, I want to plant a little seed. What if your child not listening isn't actually the problem? What if when our child doesn't follow a direction, doesn't transition when we ask, or seems completely to ignore something we know that they know how to do, we tend to focus on the behavior. How do I get them to listen? How do I get them to cooperate? How do I get them to do what I asked? But what if there's something happening before that behavior that we are missing? That's the big part of what I teach parents inside the group coaching experience I'm creating. I help you see what's happening underneath your child's behavior. So instead of guessing and repeating yourself or trying harder to get that cooperation, you can begin to recognize what your child needs from you in that moment and how to teach the skill that is missing. And today's episode is actually a perfect example of this. We're talking about transitions and what happens when your child knows how to do something but can't access that ability in the moment. I'm going to give you 3 simple things you can do differently. But as you listen, I want you to pay attention to something bigger than these 3 strategies. Notice how differently you begin to see your child. Because that's where things start to change. And if you want more of this kind of teaching, the waitlist for my upcoming group coach experience is now open at thelanguageofplay.com/waitlist. Put your name on the list and I'll be sure you're one of the first to know when we open the doors. Next is a thank you to our sponsor, Clever Ellie. I don't drive children around every day, but I still keep my Clever Ellie plugged into my car because it's also my car charger. Clever Ellie is a simple charger that gently reminds you to check the back seat when you get out of your vehicle. Its mission is to help prevent children from being accidentally forgotten in the back seat, and I love that mission. But I've discovered an unexpected benefit. I'll hear, check the back seat, and suddenly I think, oh yeah, my store return is back there. Or I'll remember something else tucked in the back seat that I had completely forgotten about. Our brains are juggling a lot. And I love simple tools that help us remember what matters. Clever Ellie is one of those set it and forget it tools. It charges my phone, and the reminder is there when I need it and when I don't. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more and receive a free charging cable with your purchase. All right, let's get started with this episode about big transitions, big change as associated with getting back into the school calendar, the school schedule. For some of you, you've been in school a while and you're already weeks into it. And some of you are saying, nope, we haven't started yet. And some of you are homeschooling. And that means the time of year is somewhat irrelevant to whether or not you're in school. You choose your own schedule. But no matter how you do school, fall brings a lot of transitions. We change the types of clothes we wear. We change the types of foods we eat. We change the schedules. There's so many things that can throw our kiddos off. We know they can throw us off too. But today we're not going to talk about how they throw us off. We're going to think about how many times in a day is our child having a transition from one thing to the next. And you can keep in your mind that it's magnified when you have a schedule change like back to school. So a child's day has transitions everywhere. Get dressed, come to breakfast, turn off the TV, get your shoes, get in the car, leave the playground, come to the table, clean up, get ready for bed. The list goes on. When school begins, we have more changes, but then now all of those changes I just said, the transition times in a day, are going to have to be speedier in order to get them done. And then let's add on to it new wake-up time, and new people, new expectations, new places, new sounds, and then new learning and like words to understand. And there's a whole lot more listening. Sometimes we look at our kiddos as they're falling apart and we think, why aren't you listening to me? You know how to do this. Why don't you do what I tell you to do? They probably do know what you're asking. However, knowing how to do something and being able to do it in the moment that they are asked to do it isn't always the same thing. When a child has been listening and learning all day, and remember, learning happens not just from the teacher. Learning is happening all around them, which includes sights, sounds, smells, experiences, other children, feelings, you name it. So when your kid is paying attention and learning from all this exposure that they have in the new environment, new people, new places, etc., then your brain's child is working really hard to adjust to all that change. In that experience, listening and language become harder too. One experience of this phenomena happening is the child that comes home from school and you give them the wrong color cup and they melt down. Or maybe your child is told to put his shoes by the door, but they suddenly cannot seem to follow that simple direction. Or maybe your child says no when it's time to leave, but you've been giving them warning after warning after warning, helping them adjust, knowing that change is coming, but they still scream no. It's easy to see these behaviors as disobedience. And I will challenge you to get curious before you correct your child. We know that sometimes our kids are disobedient, so I'm not saying that that's not true. I think, though, that we as parents jump to that conclusion sooner than it's real for our kids, particularly in the moments that we're in a hurry or we're not realizing the stress that they've been under, that they're not able to articulate to us. Even good stress is still stress. So my challenge to you is this. What about before we correct, you say to yourself, what is making this moment hard for my child? You see, children don't come in the world to make life hard for us. In those experiences where we feel like life is hard for us, you're making my life hard. Rather, consider, what is making this moment hard for my child? And when we change the focal point, we come up with a different answer. Some of those possibilities might be that they didn't fully process what you said. Maybe they're just tired from listening and learning all day. Maybe one activity stopped and the shifting of their attention to the next activity took more brain power in that moment than we realized. And maybe they know what they want to tell, but they don't have the words to explain it. And in these kind of situations, this might actually be evidence of a difficult transition, and maybe it's not actually refusal. So let's look at 3 strategies that's going to help you know for sure whether or not this is just refusal or if it's a difficult transition for whatever reason. Number 1, if you're taking notes, here's your first one. Get close before you give the direction. So instead of calling the direction from another room, move toward your child. Make sure you have their attention. Get into their space and say their name lovingly. Get their eye contact and then tell them what you want. In our speed, we might shout from the other room, but when we do that, it often backfires. We're trying to get things moving along faster, but sometimes fast is slow. And getting their attention, going to them, being with them before you speak so they actually attend to what you're saying, taking the time on the front end of a direction will be more likely to give you the results than shouting from another room and then having to repeat yourself and then them getting in trouble and then doing the correction and all the things that follow. So that proactive behavior on your part is really valuable. Number 2. So if you're taking notes, your second thing is use fewer words. And this is why if your child is already overwhelmed, more talking doesn't necessarily bring more understanding. In fact, if your child is overwhelmed, more talking tends to overwhelm them more. The mistake I see parents make is this. They tend to think the child thinks like they think. So they talk to the child in the rational, logical way that an adult might talk to another adult. And they might say something trying to persuade, such as, "Come on, honey, I've told you 3 times to get your shoes because we're going to be late and everybody's waiting for us." Now, know that this approach rarely works because you're communicating like an adult to a brain that is not fully developed. That kiddo, if they're overwhelmed, they can't process the language. And if they're just absorbed in something, that reasoning won't attach to their not yet developed logic. So if your child is already having a hard time, lessen the words. When you want compliance now, in the midst of any struggle, lessen the words. That might look like shoes on now. It might look like wash your hands. Did you notice I got quieter? Did you notice that I didn't say it mad? In fact, as I'm saying it, I naturally put a smile on my face because these kind of directions are directions that help your child simply know what to do in the context of them having a hard time. So join them and then direct them. One other point on that is that for you to be able to use fewer words, for you to get your thoughts in order, to choose the right fewer words, it does mean that you're calming down. And when you calm down, our kids tend to co-regulate. That means they will calm down when you're calmer. So there's lots of pluses in the period of time when your kiddo is having a hard time that your few words are going to make a good difference. Now let's look at number 3. If you are taking notes, write down, give their brain a picture of what comes next. Give their brain a picture of what comes next. It's like this. You say, first shoes, then grandma's. It might sound ridiculous if your child is 11 years old and entering 5th grade, but it's still true. When there's a lot going on, just help your child have the picture. You can say, first wash your hands, then we'll talk. And it's the same when your children are younger. First bath, then book. And you can pair with your words a gesture towards the bathtub and then show them the book so that they know what is first and what is next. So you're painting the picture in their brain of what you want that comes next. This is particularly helpful when your kiddo is insistent on something that it's not the time for. Maybe they want to have the screen and you're saying, no, it's supper time. Maybe they want a video game, but they need to take a bath. Maybe they want to ride their bike, but it's getting dark, so it's time to come in. When you focus like this, you focus on the communication that you and your child are having. You're not focused on the behavior your child is exhibiting. You're helping your child understand what is happening and how to process your words and then successfully move from one thing to the next. And I'm going to say that again because that's important to remember. In this context of our children having lots of change in their life, lots of transitions happening, your focus is on communication, not the behavior. You're helping your child understand what is happening, process the words, and then successfully move from one thing to the next. And the way we do that is by getting their attention before you give the direction. Move closer to them, not speaking from another room. The second thing is use fewer words. So you're very direct. And the third thing is to paint the picture in their mind of what comes next. Sometimes for our kiddos, we actually tell them to picture it in their mind. Shut your eyes. Can you see it? Sometimes phrases like that are really good to help our kids to visualize. Now, every time you help your child succeed in one of these ordinary moments, you are teaching them. And you're using your real life to see what your child's behavior might be trying to say. Your child's behavior is communication. And in the absence of compliance or words, their behavior is going to show you what they're actually thinking or feeling, because sometimes language just isn't accessible. Let me know what you think of this episode and if it's helpful in your family. Now, what we talked about today is actually one small piece of what I teach inside of the group coaching experience for parents. Because think about what we did today together. We didn't just talk about how your child could get through a transition, but we looked underneath the behavior. Instead of immediately thinking, why aren't they listening? You know how to do this. I asked you to get curious. What's making this moment hard for my child? Then I gave you something very specific to do. Get close before giving a direction. Use fewer words. Give your child's brain a clear picture of what comes next. Simple changes. But now you understand why you're making those changes. And that's important to me. And I know it is important to parents that I work with as well. Because when you understand the why behind it, you remember it better, you have more motivation to do it. I don't want to give parents a list of tricks to memorize. I want to teach you how to see what your child needs, understand what's happening beneath the behavior, and of course, what to do next. And that's what we go much deeper into inside my parent group coaching experience. We look at listening, processing, understanding, language, speech, play, connection, so many things. And those everyday moments when you get to know your child is capable of something, but they just can't seem to do it right then. I teach you how to use those real life moments to help your child grow, just like in this podcast. But we go deeper, specific to your family and your situation. I don't believe you should have to keep guessing. So if you like what you learned today and found yourself thinking, oh, I can actually do this, then I think you're going to love what I am creating for you. The waitlist is now open. Go to thelanguageofplay.com/waitlist and put your name on the list. And then you will be first to find out when enrollment is open, and you can decide if you want to participate at that time. But for now, put your name on the list. Because if you learned anything from today's episode, just think what you could learn in the program. All links can be found in the show notes. Happy back to school to all of you, whether you're already in school or you are just getting ready to go back. I hope this transition time, this change of schedule time, turns into a time of growth and support for you and your kids. One of the other foundational pieces of this is when you step in the gap for your kids in this way, You end up building such a strong bond because they trust in a new and deeper way that you've got them when they don't feel like they've got themselves. So much good comes from it. Remember, I'm always cheering you on. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.